Conduct disorder is defined as a disorder characterized by a repetitive and continuous pattern of unsocial, aggressive, or defiant conduct.
What separates conduct disorder as opposed to a child acting out is that children with this disorder act out in much more severe ways and have an enduring pattern lasting for at least 6 months, if not more.
Conduct disorder is divided into two subcategories. One is childhood onset, which occurs in children aged 10 or younger. The second one is adolescent onset, which occurs after the age of 10.
The ICD-10 lists 4 main patterns of behavior: aggression to people and/or animals, destruction of property, deceitfulness or theft, and serious violations of rules.
This is Steve. He has been exhibiting symptoms of conduct disorder. These symptoms include no control of anger. The reason he's having these angry fits is because he hears his family having another fight. Out of frustration, Steve tears up his room. Other symptoms include a poor diet. His days consist of him eating unhealthy snacks, which he eats by himself and doesn't share with others. Steve also doesn't show empathy for crimes committed and violates property. Regularly at school, Steve doesn't have any friends. At lunchtime, Steve isolates himself at a bench behind his school, and due to his low self-esteem and his temper tantrums, his friends avoid him at school. After lunch is over, Steve packs up and angrily heads to class by himself. He used headphones in order to avoid contact with anybody. Other characteristics of conduct disorder include disruptive behaviors in a variety of settings, including school, home, and social situations. The elevators at Steve's school are strictly for handicapped and disability students, but Steve doesn't listen and violates this rule, repeatedly doing what he wants. Due to the overwhelming stress of his parents constantly fighting and drinking alcohol, Steve prefers to sleep on a public bench as opposed to sleeping at home. Occasionally, his mom will call.
No, I don't want to come home. Because all you guys do is fight all day. I'm sick of it. Like, seriously. No.
Over the years, Steve learned how to pick locks, and he occasionally will break into people's property and steal their personal belongings. He does so without feeling any guilt. If anything, he feels like he has accomplished something great. Once Steve is tired of sleeping on the streets, he comes home, but once again his parents continue to yell and argue, so Steve storms off and drives off recklessly.
Why the hell do they do this? Why do they always fight?
In order to take the pain away, Steve goes to a local store to steal some alcohol. He's taken up the habit of abusing drugs and alcohol in order to distract himself, and often goes places intoxicated.
See, look at this.
He then shops for products that will harm animals. He gets into drunk rages as he drives again.
fuck out the road!
Steve often takes interest in playing with fire. For the fun of it, he breaks rules and decides to pee in a public pool. So the video you just seen of Nico is the symptoms of conduct disorder. What we're about to show you is going to be a real life case of conduct disorder.
Extreme acts of violence, like 11-year-old Lana.
She killed some chickens because she was angry at us. She was kicking the farm animals and hitting them with sticks. She's very cruel to Natasha behind closed doors. We'd been to the hospital with stitches, black eyes.
She kicks me, she punches me, tries to kill me. That is true that I really don't like her.
According to the American Academy of Family Physicians, some of the major influences that cause conduct disorder deal with genetic, biological, physical, psychological, social, environmental, and family issues.
Personality traits are commonly inherited from family members, so components that make up conduct disorder may have genetic influences. Additionally, children with parents who have or have had a mental disorder, such as mood disorders, anxiety disorders, substance use disorders, and personality disorders, are at a higher risk for developing conduct disorder.
Some children may genetically inherit a decreased baseline of autonomic nervous system activity. The child needs more stimulation to achieve optimal arousal, which will lead to sensation-seeking activities associated with conduct disorder.
Which has linked impairments in the frontal lobe of the brain with development of conduct disorder, due to the fact that the frontal lobe is responsible for regulating emotions and personality. For those with conduct disorder, frontal lobe may not be working properly, causing the reduced ability to plan future actions, which leads to lack of impulse control and reduced ability to learn from negative experiences.
Some studies suggest that defects or injuries to certain areas of the brain can lead to conduct disorder. It's been linked to brain regions that are involved in regulating breathing, impulse control, and behavior. Conduct disorder symptoms may occur if the nerve cell circuits along these brain regions do not work properly.
Okay. Another biological feature would be that the amygdala of a person with conduct disorder tends to be smaller and corresponds less understanding to the facial expressions of others.
One of the psychological influences is that some experts believe that conduct disorder can reflect problems with moral awareness, notably a lack of guilt and remorse, and deficits in cognitive processing.
It is also common that low socioeconomic status and not being accepted by their peers appear to be risk factors for development of conduct disorder.
Trauma is also a big factor in the development of conduct disorder. Different types of trauma consist of parental substance abuse, psychiatric illness, marital conflict, and child abuse and neglect.
The American Academy of Family Physicians has also mentioned that a common feature appears to be inconsistent parental availability. Parental behavior is argued to be one of the biggest factors as to whether or not a child will develop symptoms of conduct disorder.
Conduct disorder tends to co-occur with many other emotional and behavior disorders, most particularly attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, mood disorders such as depression, and most notably antisocial personality disorder. Conduct disorder is more common among boys than among girls, with studies indicating that the rate among boys in the general population ranges from around 15 to 17%, while girls' rate is around 10 to 13%. There have been studies that show that conduct disorder affects around 1 to 4% of children and adolescents ranging from ages 9 to 17 in the United States alone. This disorder has shown to be more prominent in males than females and is more prevalent in children that have been raised in urban environments as opposed to living in rural areas. Almost all adults with antisocial behavior have shown to have conduct disorder symptoms as children, but only about 1 out of 3 or 40% of children with conduct disorder later develop antisocial personality disorder. There is also a strong positive correlation between childhood conduct disorder and different psychosocial outcomes, including crime, substance abuse, relationship problems, and poor mental health.